Hey everyone, it's Tammy. Welcome to today's video. I'm going to kind of try to combine it into a couple of different, combine a couple of different things into this one to kind of keep it concise so I'm not inundating anybody with a lot of information on YouTube. Today I really am looking at number one, detox, and number two, I don't know how to frame it. I want to say digestion, but I think more importantly, it's an example as to why not everything is a good fit for everyone all the time, and demonstrating the changes that are occurring in the system, and learning how to adapt to what's going on in the moment. Sorry, I got an itchy nose. Anyway, that'll probably be the picture that YouTube selects for my cover photo. Anyway, if you're new to my channel, thank you very much for being here. I have 30 years with aromatology, phytotherapy, that all began in pharmacology. My primary area of focus is plant constituents. That's how I consult with people. Primarily I do custom formulations based on this acquisition of knowledge that I have worked hard for. I'm not going to lie about it. I've worked really hard to get to this point, to be able to challenge the paradigm, to come up against our current medical model, not as if it's a bad thing, but just saying it's not enough. And so, like I said, my primary area of focus is plant constituents as they are studied for the development of medications. 80% of our pharmaceuticals actually do come from the replication of plant constituents. They are not derived directly from, your medications do not contain naturally occurring plant constituents. These are now replicated and synthesized in labs for a number of reasons. I'm going to just say this to be fair. Quality control, because we can't control Mother Nature. And that's really what all of this comes down to, is we cannot control Mother Nature. Therefore, in order to maintain the quality of these constituents, we now make them in labs. And you can look at any of them up if you're familiar with any sort of terpene, such as limonene or linalool. Alpha-philandrine is a cannabinoid that is widely found in essential oils, in many plants rather, and it is an appetite stimulant. So there's a whole host of reasons why we have, and why they're currently using these plant constituents, but it's because they know how they interact with the human genome, and that's where I come in. Again, I'm not bad-mouthing medications. They do have their place, although I do feel like we jumped to administering them too quickly. I'm going to be concise. I'm not going to get into it too much, but I think you probably understand what I'm saying. A good example is antibiotics. Sometimes you don't even know if somebody truly has an infection until you run tests, but in the meantime, there may be absolutely no evidence. I've actually witnessed this just within the last couple of months, where there was no inflammation. There was irritation, but there was no swelling, there was no redness, there was no fever, there was nothing. And yet the person was put on 2 antibiotics while it was prescribed, but he ended up not doing them because after the test came back, the cultures came back and whatnot, he didn't have an infection. So it's that kind of stuff. At any rate, so like I said, that's who I am. If you're familiar with me, thank you for being here. If you're not familiar with me, that kind of gives you some idea. You're always welcome to visit me over on synergessence.com, and you're welcome to email me with any sort of generalized questions. I have to make a point and say that my work is very specific. It is covered by insurance, which means because I am working at the medical level per se, I am bound by HIPAA. So if you try to talk to me specifically in these videos in the comments below or through email, it is not HIPAA secure, and I will not respond to you with specific information. You're always welcome to ask me generalized questions, though, and I will do the best that I can given the context with which I work in, which is basically that no science is exact. I know we want to think science is exact, but science is essentially prediction based on hypothesis and, of course, study. But it's all predicted, but the outcomes vary because there are infinite number of variables. And so it's impossible to come up with a single cure. It is impossible to say how any one medication, or for that matter, how any one plant is going to affect an individual. Science is not exact, and that's the context with which I work. So you're probably wondering, how does that even work? Well, first of all, when you hone in on the individual and there's no emotional attachment, and that's part of the benefit of working with somebody outside of yourself. There's no emotional attachment to how things go, and it's a more open dynamic. When people talk to me, I can hear things based on, and because I do understand the neurochemistry of the body and the various genetic systems and the methylation pathway and such, there's a map that kind of almost appears in my mind, and where I can actually see things the way they're meant to work and understand what chemicals are needed where. And I'm sure a lot of it comes from the fact that I've devoted 30 years of my life. I've often said that nobody ever wakes up and decides to be an aromatherapist. And I read recently a friend of mine actually said on Instagram that God qualifies the called. And I've been called to do this. And it's been my entire adult life. And that's a long time. So what I present here is an unparalleled approach to effective healthcare. And again, it comes back to stabilization. I'm not putting down medications. They have their place, and they're not doing it. They're just not doing it. It's because the body is evolving. It's adapting. Hence the reason why science is not exact. The body adapts, and if you're not familiar with that, you might want to go listen to or watch a few of my prior videos. Sorry, I'm in my new office. I'm actually sharing this space with chiropractor, and I hear it's Sunday. I doubt anybody's going to come in here. I just decided to come in here and hang out in this space. I did put it out there today that I would be happy to talk with people about mental health. So I don't know if who's going to walk in, and if they do, well, they do. If they don't, they don't. I'm fine either way. I'm just actually stoked to be doing this video. So like I said, human body adapts. That's the nature of our survival, and that's how we can thrive. But we have to be able to assist the body to shift it out of survival and shift it into thriving. Jerry, very briefly, I will say that the heavy chemical load that we are experiencing on a daily basis is got all of us in survival mode. And when we're in survival mode, we're producing oxidative stress. And medication is a part of that. Okay, so when I say chemical load, we're talking 45 million chemicals. I say this every single video, and medications are included in it. This is the reason why they're not enough. Because on some level, they're keeping the body in survival mode. They're not doing anything about the rest of what's going on in the system. And this is another reason why I strongly advocate for the inclusion of essential oils as a lifestyle. But you got to know what you're doing. If you're not taking any medications, then okay. But again, it's not just in medications. In fact, I'm actually going to be hosting a little discussion tomorrow over here on essential oils. because they're not what we think they are, and the body is not the same body that it was hundreds of years ago. Good Lord, it's not even the same body it was 50 years ago. There's been the introduction of so many chemicals that the blatant or the mindless use of essential oils is really not doing you any good, because so many oils do affect specific chemicals in the body, and you're not wanting to, it's such as estrogen, you don't want to increase that. So this even one of the reasons why when I was going to say talk about detoxing, it's just significant, because so many oils are known for the way they can detox, but you have to understand how they work on the whole body, okay? Not just the detox process, or, or anti-inflammatory or sedative. The first thing that comes to mind when I say that is lavender. I mean, lavender is estrogenic. It acts like estrogen in the system. It doesn't mean it stimulates the production of estrogen. It means it actually acts like estrogen in the body. And estrogen is a major signaling molecule in the system. Major. It signals the release of dopamine, which influences the autonomic nervous system to activate, which then then stimulates the immune system, and it's just, so estrogen's a big deal. So knowing what oils are doing what, and not just mindlessly using them because somebody or some company is telling you that this is going to be calming. The immediate effects may be calming, but ongoing use of something like that is not advisable. When it comes to detoxing the body, this is critical, because there's a number of products on the market that are for detoxing and cleansing the system. A lot of them are just single ingredients. The first thing that comes to mind again is black walnut hull. The reason they know that is actually has the ability to detox the body or to eradicate microbes is because they've actually seen what happens when these hulls are on the ground, and it can clear. It's a pesticide. It keeps pests away from the tree, so it's the tree's natural defense. Does that mean that that's for us? Well, maybe around your house, but not in your body. And it may have some benefit, again, short term, but long term use of black walnut hulls is toxic. And it could potentially, and what it does is it actually stimulates the immune system, and that goes for anything that's meant to detox the body. Detoxing the body actually stimulates the immune system. Now, this is a problem because, like I mentioned a little while ago, everybody's body, for the most part, is in chronic stress mode, okay, chronic survival mode, which means that the immune system has been activated at some level. Now, you may say, well, I'm prone to colds and flus. Okay, well, that doesn't mean that when I say the immune system's been activated, there's at least 7 layers of the immune system. It is a very complex gene complex. It's actually called the major histocompatibility complex. So it's a very diverse, number one, and very involved is the other way I'll say it. And so to kind of keep things simple here, there's 2 primary areas, which one is the immediate defense against bacteria and viruses and so forth. And then there's the second aspect, which produces antibodies that help keep us, which is another different level of natural defense. And there's 5 subcategories of that one, and then there's 2 on the other one. And so, it actually gets even more complex, because we also produce nitric oxide and hydrogen peroxide, which is considered oxidative stress, but it is also another form of protecting the body from bacteria and infections. So, like I said, there's various levels to the immune system, and it is quite diverse, which comes from the fact that back in the early 1300s, when the Black Plague was running rampant, there is a significant imprint that was made on the immune system that has been discovered or uncovered by the Human Genome Project. And what that actually means is that's how we're sitting here, because somebody in our bloodline got that imprint. Now, since that time, the introduction of technology, which includes every single chemical that we make, okay, whether it's, well, all of it's man-made, even if it's derived or modeled after nature, it's still man-made, and it has a different impact on the body. There's they, meaning scientists, a long, long time ago, about 150 years ago, were very well, had no problem saying that they would never be able to replicate nature because there's an undeniable recognition throughout nature that could not be reproduced in a lab. That was until they produced urea from two non-organic or inorganic compounds. So they combined two inorganic compounds, created urea, and then eureka, we have organic chemistry. Doesn't mean that they never said that they couldn't replicate. They never stopped, or I should say, they never said it again, but it's an understood that they really can't replicate, because to this day, you guys, they are actually still trying to understand how nature works. It's really fascinating, because they're, they notice individual constituents, and at the same time they recognize that a single constituent isn't sufficient, that it will only do so much. But if you combine it, or when it's combined naturally with other constituents, there's a synergy, again, that cannot be replicated. Although they are trying to figure out how to combine various constituents to create a synergy in the medication. More power to them. My hat's off to them, because they at least understand that there's something about these chemicals that work better. That's a really lame way of saying that, but they're more potent when they're combined. This is the reason why I custom formulate blends, because one oil can have about 100 constituents in it, but then if you start combining them and creating that synergy, it's really very profound. Okay, but now I'm off the detox process. So at any rate, when you detox the body, like I said, you're stimulating the immune system, and because the immune system is so diverse, and all of us are in survival mode, which means that there's certain aspects to our immune system that's on high alert, where other ones may not be so much. So it's a guessing game as to who should really be using and doing things that chronically stimulate the immune system. And I know people who are trying to detox from things for 6 months straight. I truthfully cannot tell you. I mean, I have people who take burdock root and comfrey root and these black walnut. I mean, all of this stuff, and it's not doing anything. And because what's happening is, like I said, the immune system is stimulated, and while that may seem like the most beneficial thing to do to eradicate these microbes, what it's actually doing is it's stressing the body. That's how I want to answer that. It's stressing the body, and the body's already stressed. So what ends up happening is the chemistry is altered. So if you've watched me before, I'm repeating myself. If you're new, then listen up. When the body is in survival mode, it's not defective or defunct. It's not dysfunctional. The chemistry is altered. Like I said earlier, it actually produces oxidative stress. So what's the chemistry that we need for thriving and anti-inflammatory effects is now being converted into inflammatory chemicals for the sake of survival. And because of these changes in the chemistry, there's a drastic change to our digestive system, primarily, which alters the way the chemistry is produced. Then you have such things as acetylcholine, which is the primary neurotransmitter in the autonomic nervous system that is both excitatory as well as inhibitory. The other is norepinephrine. Epinephrine does have some influence in there, but again, we're talking polar differences, because each one of these chemicals can have an excitatory and an inhibitory effect in the system. So acetylcholine is really important when it comes to skin, eyes, brain health. I mean, it has a lot of other uses in the body, including in the digestive system, okay? And it actually helps to move, it's in the bowels. It actually helps to regulate, it's used in the bowels, I would just say it that way. But when we're on high alert, and depending on our genome and how the rest of the immune system is playing out, this can lead to dry eyes, it can lead to dry skin, it can lead to problems with perspiration, either too much or too little, or you can get urticaria, you can get the, oh my goodness, you have to forgive me, there's bumps that you could get, I mean, I've gotten them on my skin too, the dry bumps that I used to get them all the time when I was a kid. And that comes from lack of acetylcholine in the skin, because it actually helps. It's important for the sebum. And like I said, it's in the eyes, it's in the mouth. I mean, there's a number of places that we require this, but when the body is activated, it will diminish that. And keep in mind, this moisture is a defense mechanism, okay? It's a protection mechanism. So I find it interesting that we're trying to detox the body. I find it interesting that we are exposed to these microbes and the body is already stressed. So that means that the chemistry, again, for us to thrive, has been altered. And there's so many people that I've talked to that have a history of dry skin or dry eyes, but they have a lot of skin issues. They have things going on in their eyes. It's because they don't have effective levels of acetylcholine. It doesn't mean your body is low in acetylcholine. It just means it's being used in other places. Okay, so if somebody tells you that you're low in serotonin, or you're low in dopamine, or you're low in this, or you're high in that, it's not about being high or low, like you're not producing enough or producing too much. It's that the body is dysregulated as a result of stress. So when it comes to detoxing, you can take these things for a short amount of time. But if you're going to take these things, I would strongly encourage you to make sure that you are providing some degree of stability, because everything that's so specific in its mechanism, whether it's an herbal or a pharmaceutical, creates, I don't like to use the word imbalance, but it dysregulates the system. It creates an instability, is another way to say it, because it's really like focused. It's like a little armored tank, you know, that it's going and going and going, but it's like nothing, it can't see anything else around it. So adding stability to the system, primarily through oils, helping to keep your digestive system going. And this is the reason why we're combining these two. Keeping your digestive system strong and functional is essential for helping to maintain stability. And doing things that bring ease to the body. I've talked about this in other videos, and I know that some people have said, well, I didn't get any results. I just want to say that, number one, you got to stick with it. Number two, I can't give you specifics about your body unless you actually take the time to consult with me. I do take in, I may back up a minute. I do not take insurance at this time. My work does qualify for insurance billing. So if you decide to work with me, I can always provide you with the documentation that includes all numbers, necessary numbers that can be submitted for insurance reimbursement. So again, in the past, I've made suggestions about how to stabilize the body with certain nutrients, and I stand by what I said in the past, but I can't give you specific information unless I know exactly what's going on with you. So it does take some time to get involved with you and understand your system. So I'll just say them here. The two nutrients that come to mind right off the top of my head, and this is if you are not taking medication. If you're taking medication, please just disregard what I'm about to say, because oftentimes these medications do not work with a lot. These nutrients do not work with a lot of medications. And those two nutrients I'm talking about are quercetin and magnesium. Now, that said, if you do want magnesium, and I do recommend magnesium for everyone, you can, and I've had people suggested in other videos, you know, magnesium glycinate. Oh my gosh, I almost lost that word. Magnesium glycinate. Okay, magnesium glycinate is a good one. I mean, that's helpful. But here's the deal. When you take magnesium as a salt, which if it's in a supplement form, it's a salt, the potential for interaction with medications is high, with a lot of medications. So taking it in that form may or may not do it for you. I know a lot of people don't really notice an extraordinary benefit. I mean, I've seen people who've taken up to 6 of those magnesium glycinate pills to find that they actually feel it. The next best thing, actually the best thing you can do, honestly, is either a magnesium oil, gel, or cream on the skin. You want to double check the magnesium in those, but for the most part, all I've found, what I found so far, and you can run this double check it with me again, and I'll make sure to make comments in the description box below. But the magnesium on the skin in these gels and these lotions and such, if it's just straight magnesium, I'm finding doesn't have an interaction with the medications. And I've had a number of people that have been on some cocktail of psychotropics that we've put on the gel with great success. So that's Ancient Minerals. That's an Ancient Minerals magnesium gel. That link is in the box below. That one I have found not to be a problem with any medication. So, it works very well. I use it on a regular basis myself because I'm human and I'm on this planet with you and I'm exposed to everything that you're exposed to. So, that said, magnesium and quercetin are the 2 nutrients that I would suggest. You can get quercetin in your food, artichokes, apples, the white skin on the citrus fruits, all are very high in quercetin. But in order to get the amount that you need, because quercetin actually is also very good for the digestive system, it is significantly important with regards to quieting various aspects of the immune system. This is another reason why it's not necessarily recommended for everyone. But if you have allergies, food sensitivity and such, then quercetin is a good one for you to try. Don't look for immediate results. Take what's recommended and take the recommended dosage on the bottle and take it ongoing. And but again, if you're taking medications, you might want to double check on that one. I can help you out, or you can try and find out for yourself. But those would be the 2 that I would recommend to help at least stabilize the immune system while you're detoxing the body. You also want to be nourishing the liver with foods like avocados and walnuts and hemp seeds and beets, grapefruit only if you're not taking medications, vanilla, pure vanilla, and rosemary as an herb seasoning. So those are some foods that you can try for nourishing the liver. Again, I said hemp seeds, and I emphasize that because, well, flax seeds are not recommended because they are very high in phytoestrogens, therefore acting like estrogen. And right now we're trying to calm the system. And again, when I say don't eat certain foods, it's not because it's a forever thing, it's for a now thing. Okay, so those foods I mentioned for the liver are very good for the digestive system. The quercetin and the magnesium are very good for stabilizing the immune system. And then you want to be making sure that you are taking care of your digestive system, and that excludes probiotics, which is, we're going to get into a little bit about the digestion here. And the reason I say that is because I realize there's a big push these days to take probiotics, and people, commercials are out there, and I get it. But the thing is that you can, if you're not balancing the good and the bad bacteria in the gut, if that's not being regulated, and believe it or not, the hydrochloric acid in our stomach is in part used to regulate good and bad bacteria in our bowels. So if you take a ton of these probiotics, what ends up happening is probiotics, we're not just replacing the bacteria in the bowels, because they have other functions in the body. And especially if you have eczema or psoriasis, you don't want to be taking probiotics, because probiotics actually increase the natural killer cells. And I know many people encourage taking probiotics to boost your immune system during cold and flu season. And I say, go for stability. Stop targeting and stop trying to take control. The body can do amazing things if you give it the opportunity. And so, interestingly enough, this country is very high in cholesterol. We have a lot of cholesterol issues. We have a lot of arteriosclerosis, high blood pressure, a lot of hormonal problems, thyroid problems, and so forth. And vitamin D, I know that it's been stated that the United States alone is epidemically low in vitamin D. That is a hormone, and if we're not producing it well enough and we're not using it, then we're going to have naturally higher levels of cholesterol. Also, if you have a tendency to have more of a high carb diet, and your digestion is out due to the stress response, which it is, your cholesterol levels are going to be going up. Okay. And so, like I mentioned, I'm going to put it in the description box again, a link to the physiological changes that occur in the body as a result of stress. And the digestion is a big one. And so if I were to suggest anything, okay, I mentioned beets a little while ago for the liver. I would encourage taking betaine. And again, there's that link for that one here in the box too, because this betaine is found in beets, but you'd have to get a lot of beets in you, and then that's going to really create some loose bowels, problematic bowels. So the best thing to do is to take the betaine as a supplement, again, as directed on the bottle, and that will actually help to regulate the good and the bad bacteria, because the good and the bad bacteria are essential. Okay, so the balanced bacteria is essential for cholesterol. So here's the thing, stop using mouthwash, because the mouthwash is basically antibacterial, and it's killing the bacteria in the mouth that is necessary for producing nitric oxide, which is essential for helping to use cholesterol. It's extraordinary to understand this and realize everything that we're doing because we're trying to be hygienic. And I do actually do oral systemic consults, because the health of the mouth and the health of the body are definitely mirror images. If you're not familiar with it, I also do have an extensive background in dentistry. I started out as a dental assistant, got into treatment coordinating, office management, and eventually taught dentistry to dental assistants, from the classroom to the lab to the clinic. So I have a lot of experience in that realm too, which is the reason for the oral systemic health. But all I want to say here is that the body has a very strong ability to regulate itself if we give it the chance. And the way to do it, the way to give it the chance, is to provide stability. I just had a client, he was in treatment for depression a little over a year ago. He came out, was introduced to me. We've done extraordinary work. He does take some medications. I've referenced him before because he has a psychiatrist that apparently doesn't want me in his life, but he keeps standing his ground, and so I keep acknowledging him for standing up for what he needs and wants. At any rate, he contacted me earlier last week because he's been experiencing depression. It's really gotten hard on him again. And his mother was concerned, and of course he is concerned. And yes, he did call me because I am one of the clinicians that's working with him. He does prefer to go natural, but he does, like I said, he takes 3 medications right now. So he ran off the list of everything that he's taking, and without judgment, the word kombucha just popped out. I mean, I know he's been drinking kombucha for almost a year now. He's been doing quite well. And then all of a sudden, earlier this summer, his father ran into some medical problems. And so this young man became the head of the household for a few months. And so in his mind, he had just gotten out of treatment. he was still dealing with his stuff, and now he's having to be the man of the house. And that was very hard for him, very stressful. That level of stress caused enough of a change that kombucha could accentuate the histamine levels in his body, because when the immune system is activated, one of the chemicals that is naturally increased is histamine. Yes, we could talk about probiotics as well, but again, we're talking about fermentation. We're talking about high levels of histamine. The fermentation process in the body is used in the production of neurochemistry, and he's not feeling good. He's low energy, he's depressed, he's got all this. And so I just said to him, explained all of this to him, explained how kombucha is very high in histamine, and the excessive amount of probiotics could be actually further stimulating his immune system, even though it's already been activated with the stress. And so to cut it out, stop drinking it, and let's see how he does, and give himself a day or two to see how he feels. And if he still doesn't feel better, then he needs to get in touch with his doctor, because she may want to make some adjustments to his meds. One day off of kombucha, 1 day off of kombucha, 1 day on betaine, and he felt a whole world of difference. He actually called me and said, I never thought that I would have to change. He goes, I thought because I felt good on it before, it would always be good for me. And now I see how much the body changes. And so he's learning as a young man how to go with the ebb and flow of the system and recognize and understand exactly what stress is doing. So again, high levels, it's sorry, I'm not exasperated with anybody. Sometimes I get so excited by this, and I wish I could just say it all, just talk for the rest of my life and just help people understand how important it is to pay attention to what the body's doing, go with the flow, understand that if we provide stability, yes, we have an abundance of nutritional supplements and nutritious foods, but everything in moderation. That's, if I take away anything from my childhood, that's the one thing my dad used to say, is everything in moderation. It means you have to pay attention. We cannot mindlessly go through life eating and drinking and taking because somebody said it was good for us. Whoever told you it was good for you doesn't know your body. You could try it and see how it goes, but you are the expert in your body. And I can sit here and make all the recommendations in the world, which I do. And I tell people this all the time. I can make all the suggestions, but ultimately how your body responds is what's going to tell me how we need to go, what we need to do next. And so this is what I do with people, is I become a second set of eyes and ears for them, and in turn guiding them, and through that guidance teaching them how they can begin to do this for themselves. So when it comes to detoxing, again, stability. You can use the products if necessary, but at least include things like I mentioned, the nutrients and the foods and oils that actually provide stability to the system, that do not interact with medications. What those are going to depend on you and what your needs are. And that involves a complete assessment. I wish I could give you more specific oils, but I can't. They're so varied, and they have very many different effects. The other thing is with digestion, it does fluctuate. It fluctuates greatly. And so taking digestive enzymes is good. Taking probiotics, if you're taking antibiotics, or if you consume foods that have been exposed to antibiotics, such as beef and or dairy, then you want to make sure to, how I want to say it is, eat foods like onions and garlic if you can. They contain the prebiotics. Maybe take a probiotic once a week. And make sure you take betaine or some kind of hydrochloric acid, because the symptoms that we have, like another good example is the number of people I talk to that have acid indigestion, acid reflux. That is actually more of an indication that you have low stomach acid. Okay, so again, knowing your system But right now, I've been really talking a lot to people. I will say this, not to be too gross, but when the bowel movements are really foul, or the gas is really foul, or you have a lot of gas and bloating, it's not necessarily meaning you need probiotics. It means you actually need to help regulate, a lot of belching. You need to help regulate that bacteria. But again, it's really always helpful to kind of get a second set of eyes and ears until we can get a handle on what's going on with you. So, like I said, the body does change. It changes quite a bit. Given the day, given that breath you just took and those chemicals you just smelled. It's paying attention to that and following the lead and understanding what exactly is going on so that you can better regulate your wellness is what this is all about. Anyway, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at TammyDavis8 and synergessence.com. There's also a link in the description box for booking an appointment with me. So anyway, I do appreciate you very much. And let me know if you have any questions, if there's something you would like for me to speak about. I still owe somebody in Brussels a video on that she requested, but I'm still working on that one. So anyway, bear with me. It will come out because I am doing a radio show tomorrow on GMOs, and I just posted a video on that. So it's coming. Anyway, thanks again for watching, you guys. Be blessed. Until later.